whoop. I'm excited. We've been looking forward to this month all for a while. I'm so glad that you're here today. It is a great time to be at Capital Church. We are taking 4 weeks to just celebrate what's good. And so we're going to do that by celebrating a lot that we see that's good all around our community. And we're going to do that by celebrating with good things. And so I'm glad that you're here and a part of that because I want you to enjoy and be a part of and just enjoy all of that. But, most importantly, because these 4 weeks, they're going to come and go, right? So most importantly, what I'm really hoping will come out of these 4 weeks is that you will learn how to become a person who celebrates what's good all the time. Because my goal is to show you, to help you to see the power of celebrating what's good, the difference that will make, in your life, in your home, where you go to school, where you go to where you work, here at this church, how celebrating what's good can make a difference in your life as well as the world around you. So I'm looking forward to this. Before we get there, I just want to say welcome and thank you to all who are here for the first time. If you're here, this is your first time or your second time at Capital, welcome. My name is David. I'm the pastor here, and I'm glad that you're here this morning, that you're spending your Sunday with us. Listen, there's a card in the seat back in front of you, and we can all, if everyone just look and check that out. It says connect on one side and further on the other. If we pull that out and just look at that, you'll notice it says it has a place on the Connect side. If it's your first time, you can just put your name, your email address, and if you'll do that and fill that out, let us know how you found out about us. I promise you 2 things. No one's going to show up at your house, and no one's going to put you on a mailing list, right? Nothing weird like that. We just want to send a letter to say thank you for spending the morning with us, let you know how you can connect further with Capital Church, and you can bring it up to the Connect Center. That's underneath the TV, the Connect Center at the end of service, I'd love to follow up with you on that. Flip side, it says further, and we believe at Capital that every single person is on a spiritual journey, that we're all taking steps toward God, and so in a journey, it's impossible to move forward in any journey without taking steps. And so that further side is just a series of next steps that maybe you look at that and say, I've never done that. I've never taken that step in my spiritual journey. And you'd like to know more information about that. Well, you can mark that off and again, bring that to Connect Center, and I'll follow up with you and just kind of talk about ways that you can do that. That sound good? Am I the most excited person in this room? That's rare. So anyway, today is a great day, and I'm glad that you're here. Let me tell you what we're going to be doing today. Today, we are celebrating youth. Can we hear it for the youth? We are celebrating students. You either started school or you are starting school this week. And that's a good thing. I didn't mean to bum you out. That's a good thing. So we're celebrating kids and celebrating teens. And so we've got outside after service, we've got just a ton of drawstring bags. This is Capital on it, and it's filled with school supplies. And the supplies that you all donated. Just the generous people of Capital brought in and donated. And there is a bag for every single student here. So no matter what grade you're in, if you're a student here, we want you to take a bag. Listen, if your kids are not here, parents, take a bag and bring that home. And we just want to bless you. Just want you to have it. You can't pay for it. It's already been paid for by everybody who brought it in. So that's yours totally. We've also got a couple bounce houses, and so you can bounce on that if your hips allow that. You go ahead and you bounce, to your heart's content. We got sodas, Cokes, and water on the lawn, and we've got Ben and Jerry's here after second service. Ben and Jerry's going to be here, and they're going to be helping us with a fundraiser for Forest Park. So listen, parents, grandparents, hang out. Let's spend the first celebration Sunday hanging out. If you're not a parent or grandparent, you don't have any kids with you, hang out anyway, and just talk to people. Let them bounce. Let your kids bounce. Grab the bags. We have Ben and Jerry's here, like I said, to help us with a fundraiser that we're doing for Forest Park. Forest Park Elementary School is one of the elementary schools in our school district, and if you don't know, they're like the home base. They are the home base for students with special needs in our district. And so Forest Park has a lot of expenses that other schools don't have, and they don't have a lot of resources that other schools do have. Now, if you've been here for a while, you may remember that we did the Gimme a Snack Pack fundraiser last year, and that was great. And you guys all gave toward that, and were able to help provide snacks for the students there at Forest Park. Well, I got a great surprise for you. Here today with us is the principal from Forest Park, Jill Penn. Isn't that great? Come on up. What do you think, Gary? Is this good? Oh, TJ's got it right behind you. Now listen, I don't know what you guys think about principal. You hear principal? I know most of you spent a lot of time outside of the office of your principal, I'm pretty sure. But listen, principal, the last three letters is pal, okay? So you guys got to keep that in mind. No, but seriously, when you think about the level of leadership and will and heart that it takes to take on that leadership role in a school, in a place with such challenge, I just can't appreciate what you're doing enough. So would you just welcome Jill with me?
Thank you so much. I have to say I'm so honored to be here on behalf of my school today to thank you for your generous support of our community for the last year. I was sharing with Pastor Mazzella as I came in this morning that the snacks that you donated last year took us all the way through the whole school year, and then also helped to support our students with significant disabilities who attend school year-round. They join us during the summer months, so you were also able to support those students as well, so we thank you for that. I know as a principal, and I've been fortunate, I've been in South Colony since I entered education in 1992. I was a teacher at the high school, and as I've moved through my career and entered this position as the building principal, I've been fortunate to stay in the community where I live and where I raised my own child. And I know that as a principal, my job is not only to lead, but to teach my students that when you give to others and you give without looking for something in return, that's the greatest thing that you can do as an individual. And I want all of my little guys, when they leave us, to feel that way when they go out into society, to know just how important it is to be a good person. So when I'm able to share with them the generous donations that have come to our school that will help to make a difference in their lives, they see those models, and I think that that rejuvenates them, and it helps them to see and feel just how powerful that is. So I cannot thank you enough. I'm truly honored. I'm beyond speechless. Not really, but as you can tell, it's the principal thing. There's always something to say. But truly, it's such a wonderful thing, and thank you again for all of your support of our school. It does truly make a difference.
Thank you. It's just said perfectly. I mean, we believe in, and we talk about this, that, the whole reason that God gives us what he gives us is for the purpose of making a difference for others, and so whether that's he gives us the ability to produce wealth, or he gives you some kind of skill or talent, learning what you learn. All this stuff God gives us so that we can use that in order for the good of others. And so today you have an opportunity to do that right away. Ben and Jerry's is going to be here, and they're great. So 50% of what they take in will go right back to us, which is going all directly to Forest Park. And so not like $50 or 50% after their expenses. Like if you spend $4, $2 of that is going right to Forest Park. So that's excellent. So I really encourage you, if you got a couple bucks in your pocket and God has given you the ability to eat ice cream, then do that today. Listen, if God has not, maybe some of you may not have the ability to eat ice cream, and I'm sorry for that. But I am highly blessed and highly favored in the ability of eating ice cream. And so if you just want to buy one and give one to me, that's fine. I'll eat them all. I'll eat them all. So I encourage you to hang out and to do that and just to participate in that. That sound good? Good stuff. Good stuff. Hey, speaking of youth, was it so awesome to have the Capital Students worship team here today? They were amazing. That's all teenagers and those who are volunteering, the young adults who volunteer to work with our Capital Students Youth Group, and it's just so good to see young people using their talents to make a difference for God, right? Yeah. That's why we're here. Like, I don't mean like here in this room. I mean like on earth. Like, that's why we all exist. You know that, right? Like the reason you exist is to bring glory to your Creator, to bring glory to God, to put him on top, to make him famous, whatever language you want to use. And so it takes some of us a long time to figure that out, right? But it's so good to see those who have figured that out at such a young age and are doing that. So that's great. One of them was my son, so I'm super happy about that. But I just want to say, I'm going to transition here. I just want to say, as a dad, that means so much to me because I feel grateful, indebted to, and I want to thank Pastor TJ and Jackie for their influence in the lives of my children. They have, for 6.5 years, in so many different roles, with Life Kids After School, with Capital Students, Strive before that. They have taught our kids, our kids to follow Jesus and to make him famous, and they've modeled that with their lives. And so, today is kind of like it's a bittersweet day for our community. If you're with us, you may not know this, but today is TJ and Jackie's last Sunday with us. They are moving on to a new adventure that God has called them to, and so it's bitter for us because we're going to miss them. It's sweet for us because we're going to see them go on to the next thing that God has for them, and that's what we're all that's what we're all here for. So I asked TJ and Jackie to come and just to share about that next step that that God's calling them to. Would you welcome them with gratitude and love that we have for them?
Thank you. It is bittersweet. 6.5 years ago, my husband and I just got married, and we were praying and fasting about what we should do. And God spoke to our hearts, and he said, move to Albany. We didn't know what that would look like. My parents were not happy. We both quit our jobs, and I was pregnant, and we moved to Albany with nothing lined up. And God has been so faithful along the journey to be standing here today. I just want to say thank you to each one of you. I want to thank you for loving our family. We've had both of our children here, and our marriage has grown here, and we've grown as individuals, making a lot of mistakes and learning along the way. Thank you, Pastor David and Carrie, for loving us and just pouring into us, the pastoral staff for supporting us. It's sad. It is sad to be leaving, but we are excited for what God has. To our Capital students, we love you guys. We've already done this, though, so we're not going to take time and do this morning. But Pastor TJ is going to tell you a little bit about what we're going to be doing. Thank you.
Amen. Amen. 6.5 years ago, your lead pastor, David Mazzella, took a gamble of his life. No, I'm just kidding. He rolled the dice on us, though. I came to this place really just knowing God wanted me here. I didn't know what I was going to be doing or why I was coming. I just knew that I was supposed to. And so I followed that call of God. And Pastor David, after talking to my references and asking them if I was crazy, is he someone that walks out in faith, or is he nuts? And after getting some decent feedback, and then one of my references giving me a terrible reference, don't ever write down a terrible reference. Not a good idea. He still took a gamble on us because I think he was hearing from God as well. And so through the 6.5 years, we have had our ups, we've had our downs. You've let us fail, and you've let us win. And it's just an amazing thing that we've been able to grow over the 6.5 years and make an impact of some sort. If I've hurt you in any way, I apologize greatly. It's never my intention. If I've helped you win in any way, I hope that it stays with you and I've made a difference in your life. We have the opportunity to go to Hornell, New York, and Pastor David and I have kind of been walking through this process for about 6 months of trying to figure out. I felt transition, and he's been pushing me as the lead mentor he is in my life to figure out what that looks like and what is that. And what that looks like for our families, we'll be moving to Hornell, New York, and co-leading a church with a couple friends of ours that have a great vision, and God's going to be doing an amazing thing. Jackie and I are builders, and what that means is that we like to help build things up. And so we're excited about going there and doing things. We're excited for our family. But most importantly, I just want to thank the students for letting us fail, letting us be the people that we are in their lives, loving us dearly, letting me come and hang out with them at their games and coming to church and seeing their lives changed. I want to thank each and every one of you. You've just been an amazing family to be a part of. For the pastoral lead team here, the pastoral team, you guys don't understand that the pastors here are champions. They are absolutely in love with you. They love everything about you, and they want the best for you. They don't sit there and talk about, how can we just move this person this place? No, they want whatever is best and what God has for you, and they want it to the greatest of your ability. And it's an amazing thing to be behind the curtains of that and see it. So I love you guys, and I appreciate you. And most to a lead pastor, my mentor, he's been a guide for me. He's taught me how to be a man, to be a better father. It's just been an amazing journey, and I appreciate him a ton. And thank you for everything. Appreciate you.
Yeah, I got to tell you, as a boss, I just have so much respect for both of them. From the beginning, they've come and they just have modeled that humble heart. I mean, how many times do they apologize, right? Talk about just that humility, like they really want to always do their best. And they've played so many different roles, and they have taken on every task, and they have loved every person that they have interacted with, and they have been so great to work with. We've gone through quite the journey together in these 6.5 years, and it's been my honor to be a part of that with you guys. And thank you for all that you have done. I'm excited about what God is going to do. It really stinks for us, but I couldn't be more proud of you. So thank you. Love you guys. All right, so if you would please pull out your message sheet from your worship guide. I have not been able to, I haven't preached in a few weeks here, and so I'm going to do that. No matter what else is going on, I'm going to do that today, okay? So we have, as TJ mentioned, we've just got a stockpile of really great leaders here, and so in August we allow you to hear from their heart, and so they get to come and they get to speak. But that means I got to sit there and watch this whole time. So I'm excited to be back up here. First service, I was a little bit nervous because there was like nobody here, right? And we were starting, and there's only a few people there, and I was starting to feel a little self-conscious. I asked Pastor Brennan. I said, didn't you tell people that I was going to be speaking? And he said no, but apparently the word got out. So I don't know what that means, but no, I'm just kidding. That didn't happen. But listen, I want to say well done to you for being here. Something that we say is that God wants your Sunday, and that's just not like a gimmick. That's like in the Bible. He really does. He wants your day one, and the whole reason he wants your day one is because when you give him day one, you then invite him to lead you the rest of the week. So you've already made a big step. You've already won the week. So well done. You can give yourself a hand on that. I also know that not everyone can get here, and so for a number of reasons, someone may be sick or on vacation. So I just want to take a minute, if you'll let me, and just look into the camera and say welcome to all who are watching with us online, whether you're on our online campus or Facebook or YouTube. I'm glad that you're here today, and glad we get to spend this time together. Our mission here is our location is here in Colony, but our mission is global. So the fact that we get to do that is great. Hey, would you welcome all who are watching online with me? Can we do that one more time? Will you welcome all who are online here with me? That's the capital I know. All right, so hey, check this out. This is, I don't know if you can see that. I'll tell you what it says. This is a screenshot of my iPad from a while back. It says this. It's just a notification I received very early. I'm reading it at 7:35. Right? It came in actually at 7 in the morning. It says new lows in immigration battle. U.S. quits human rights group. Bad news for GE. Dozens die in ferry wreck. And then look what it says. Can you see what it says after that? Start your day here. Thanks. That's great. Thank you for this stream of bad news, right? Just stuff to worry about, stuff to be afraid of, stuff to be angry about or and sad about. And then it says, and hey, start your day here. Like here, I'm just going to dump all of this bad news. I'm going to just feel a good morning, fill your head with all of this negative stuff, and then go on your day from there, right? I don't know about you, but I don't need help with that. I mean, that's something I just don't need help with. I mean, who doesn't have plenty of their own bad news, right? And uncertainty swirling around in their heads. Maybe you can relate to this. I don't know, but you ever been in bed and like the alarm goes off, right? It's in the morning, your alarm goes off, but you've already been awake for an hour, staring at the ceiling, because your brain has been sending notifications of all this bad news. This stuff that you've got to worry about, this stuff, these conflicts that are unresolved that you're just thinking about, this stuff that you got to do, these fears that you have, and they're just bing, 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 bing going off in your brain. How many of us often start our day here with our own bad news and uncertainty? Anybody can relate to that? Yeah, I mean, I think that we can, and you know, it's easy to get overwhelmed, I think. It's easy to get overwhelmed by all the bad news and all the misinformation that comes to us in our own lives and as well as in the world. It's easy to get overwhelmed by all the bad news and all the misinformation and all the uncertainty and all of the fear. And you know, the thing about this is once you start your day here, very often it's tough you stay here, don't you? You just kind of live with it and you carry that throughout the day. It's easy to get distracted by all that stuff. And the bigger problem here is that not only do you get distracted by all this stuff, it doesn't just stay in your head, right? It also affects your life. It affects how you interact. It affects the things that you do. Because you know, what comes out, you know this is true, what comes out, the stuff that you say, the stuff that you do, it's all just a manifestation, right? It's a presentation of what's inside. Whatever comes out of us is just a presentation of what's already inside. Hateful thoughts produce hateful talk, right? Fearful thoughts produce fearful decisions, fearful actions. What we think about will become the world that we create around us. Let me say it another way. What you dwell on will become the world you dwell in. You with me? What you dwell on will become the world you dwell in. Now, I knew that we'd have a principal here today, and I see some teachers, because we're starting out, and we're going to celebrate our teachers. So I realized that grammatically we should say this like this. Upon whatever you dwell will become the world within which you dwell, right? But that doesn't flow as well, so let's go back to the other one. What you dwell on will become the world you dwell in. So listen, that's why this is so important. That's why we're launching September. We're launching this new season with 4 weeks dedicated to celebrating what's good. Because what you dwell on will become the world that you dwell in. So we're going to talk about how you can keep from being overwhelmed by all the bad news and the worry and the fear and the misinformation that gets downloaded, and how even beyond that, you can become a person who celebrates good and becomes a person who celebrates good in a way that makes a difference. You see, just as, we know this, just as bad news and misinformation can bring us down, so also, do you know that good news and truth can lift you up? It can lift you up. It can make you life-giving. Now, understand, I'm not just making this up. These aren't my ideas, and this isn't just going to be some kind of positive thinking, turn the frown upside down, look on the bright side of life, kind of self-help kind of thing. What I'm talking about is a principle, actually, that we see laid out all throughout the Scriptures. I want to look, though, today just at one place. I want to look at one place in the New Testament where we see this principle laid out. It was written by a guy named Paul to a church in the Greek city of Philippi. Paul was a missionary, and he started churches, and he started this church in Philippi. So he wrote this letter. This is years later. He writes this letter to them, the Philippians. That's where they get the name for the book. And he writes this letter to them. And he says this. He says, finally, right? So he's writing this letter, and he's coming to the end of his letter, and he says, finally, right? So let me sum all of this up. If you get nothing else, get this. Brothers and sisters, friends, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, what's he say? Think about such things. Now, you've got to know what the context is here. So when Paul's writing to these Christians living in this city, they're living in a very scary, very violent world. They're living in a city that is occupied and controlled by the Roman Empire. In the time when the Roman Empire was at its strongest and maybe at its cruelest. And these Christians lived under this constant threat of being persecuted, and constant threat of kind of Rome just kind of taking over. And so they lived in this, and Paul was trying to write to them and say, look, even in this world that you live, his whole letter is about how they can live with resolve, be resolved in your faith, and not just that, not like just like tuck and cover, let's go find a hole and crawl in it, but rather he writes to them to tell them how they can live with joy. His whole letter is about, hey, here's how you can live with joy even in the world that you're in. And you got to know this too. Paul's writing this from prison. Like he's in jail right now. He's in a Roman jail because of his faith while he's writing this letter. And he's uncertain about how that's going to go, whether he's going to live or he's going to die. And while he's there, he's got a lot of time to think. And Paul has a lot of time, and he's also got a lot of reason to think bad thoughts while he's there. You see, Paul, just kind of long story short, before Paul was a Christian, he hated Christians. And so he devoted his life to destroying Christianity, which included even overseeing the execution of people just simply because they were Christian. He had a lot of bad memories. He had a lot of regrets that he could have just played over and over in his mind. Well, after he became a Christian, it didn't get a lot better because now Paul became the one who was hunted. He was the one who people hated. He was the one who people were lying about. He was the one, on top of all kinds of sufferings because of his travel and his health, he was the one who was under this constant threat of being arrested or even killed. Actually, Paul had even Christians, people in the church, same team, who hated him, who were coming against him. He writes about it in this letter to the Philippians, about people who in the church themselves who hated him. Paul had all kinds of reason to think all kinds of negative thoughts, to just be overcome by all the bad news and the uncertainty and the fear. And this is what he says. Will you read the yellow words with me? He says, look, finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever's noble, whatever's right, whatever's pure, whatever's lovely, whatever's admirable. If anything's excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. He's saying, look, celebrate what's good. Understand the power of that. Because you see, whatever's inside your heart and your mind, it's going to come out your mouth. It's going to come out in your actions. And here's how he says this looks. Next verse. He says, look, here's what I mean. Whatever you have learned or received, this is why this is so important that your mind's in the right place. Because whatever you have learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, whatever is true, whatever is good that has been downloaded, put it into practice. And here's the promise. The God of peace will be with you. Now, this is significant because in other places, even just earlier in this chapter, he talks about the peace of God will be with you. But here he goes further. He says the God of peace will be with you. Now, this isn't to suggest that God's not with you if you're thinking negative. God's always with us, right? But very often when we're allowing ourselves to be overwhelmed, we don't realize it. He's saying when our mind's in the right place, what happens is you'll realize that God is with you, and you'll know who God is. Not a God who's dumping bad stuff into your life, not a God who's waiting for you to screw up and so he can throw in punishment, not a God who doesn't care about what you're going through and what you're suffering. A God, the God of peace will be with you. That word peace it's a nuanced word. In the original language, it means a lot more than just simply the lack of conflict. That word peace in the original language, it actually means all things as they should be. All things made right. He's saying, look, when our mind is set on the right things, and as we're dwelling on that, it will become what our actions flow through. And when we do, we'll realize God is with us, that God is working. He is at work making all things right. Let me show this to you in a different translation. So in the original language of the Bible, the New Testament was written mostly in Greek. But so when we have translated in English, there's a number of different English translations. And what that is they're all working from the same kind of source text, but they use different English words to try to get at that meaning. And so you can go and you can read the Bible in a bunch of different translations based on kind of what your reading style is. Well, one of the ones that I really like that kind of really breaks this down is the Message translation. And it says these same words, these same verse, it translates it this way. Summing it all up, friends, I'd say you do best by filling your minds and meditating on the things that are true and noble and reputable and authentic and compelling and gracious. You know, like set your mind on the best, not the worst. Think about what's beautiful, not what's ugly. Think about the things to praise, not the things to curse. And here's why he says this. He says, put into practice what you learned from me, what you heard and saw and realized. Do that. And watch what happens. God, who makes everything work together, who's making all things new, he will work you into his most excellent harmonies. It's like Bill and Ted helped out with that translation right there. I've got one person from the 90s. Okay. All right. That's cool. That's cool. No, he's saying, look, what he's promising you is this. He's saying God has a plan and a purpose for your life. And when you will set your mind in the right place and you'll put into practice these things that are filling your mind, then what will happen is this. God, who is making everything new, he wants you to be a part of that. He wants you to be a part of that world transforming work. And so he will work you into that plan. But you've got to dwell on what's good, or you're not going to do what's good. In other words, what you dwell on will become the world you dwell in. Now, Paul doesn't just simply lay this out as a philosophy and say, now think about this. He's actually in this also giving us a roadmap to how we can become people who celebrate what's good, how we can be people who are not overwhelmed by all of the realities, the bad news and the misinformation that does come our way, how we can not be overwhelmed by that, but actually be a person who celebrates what's good and does it in a way that's life-giving and even transforming the world around us. He gives us 4 steps. There are 4 steps that any person can take, and they're 4 steps that are kind of laid out. You can follow them right along your nose. These 4 steps, if we take these, we will become people who learn how to celebrate what's good in every situation. The number 1 is this. He tells us to know what's good. You gotta, in order to celebrate what's good, you got to know what's truly good. That makes sense, right? This week is my wife and I are celebrating our 21st wedding anniversary. So that's awesome. She deserves all kinds of praise for that. I know the date of my anniversary. It's September 6th. That's important that I know the date of my anniversary, or else I wouldn't be able to celebrate it. But I do know it, and I remember it. If I didn't remember it, celebrate would quickly turn into celibate. So it's good that I do remember it. You got to know what it is if you're going to celebrate it. and you got to be clear about it, right? Like there's other dates out there. There's 364 other dates, even 5 some years. There's all kinds of dates out there that I could choose from, but I can't just choose any of them and say, I'm going to call that the date of my anniversary. There is a date of my anniversary, and I've got to know what it is in order to celebrate. I can't choose the date of your anniversary and celebrate that. That's not my anniversary. I've got to know what it is in order to celebrate it. Well, Paul's kind of saying, look, yeah, good's the same way. Like, listen, there's all kinds of versions of good out there. There's all kinds of people telling you that this is good or that is good or here's my good, what's your good. But Paul is saying, look, there is a good. Like, there's a true good. And you've got to know what the good is if you're going to be able to celebrate that good. And so Paul gives us a list, right? He starts with this list. He's like, look, it looks like this. It's true, and it's noble, and it's right, and it's pure, and it's lovely, and it's admirable, right? It's beautiful. He's speaking to the beauty that you see. And then he adds 2 more words in there. He says, if anything is excellent and praiseworthy. Now, I like the NIV kind of puts these dashes to let us know that, look, these 2 words, this is not a part of the list. This is something different. If anything is excellent and praiseworthy. He's saying all this other stuff, this top 6, let me qualify it this way. What I'm talking about is I'm talking about what's true and right and pure and lovely and beautiful. If it's excellent and praiseworthy. That word excellent, it means in the original, it speaks to, in the original language, it speaks to the very, very highest good possible that a human can attain. The very highest good possible that a human could attain. And so Paul has already established in this book that when we talk about that, we're only talking about one human who has ever been able to attain perfection, ever able to attain this excellence. And he's referring to Jesus. Jesus is the excellent one. He's the one who came and he did not sin. Mark tells us about the way people reacted to Jesus and the way that he lived. It says this, is that people were overwhelmed with amazement. And they said this, they said, he has done everything well. Jesus came and he is the expression of perfect good. And so what Paul is saying is, look, what I'm talking about when I'm talking about what's true and what's noble and what's right and what's pure, I'm talking about what reflects the person and the work and the teaching of Jesus. And just as he is true and perfect and good and pure, when you see that reflection, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about celebrate the reflection, celebrate when you see Jesus in your world. Praiseworthy, same thing. That word praiseworthy that he uses, it points to what God considers worth praising. And so in all of these things, what he's doing is he's showing us, look, there is a model for good. It's Jesus. So where you see Jesus, the truth, and you see the nobility, and you see the justice, and you see the purity, and you see the loveliness, and you see the beauty that we see in the person and the work and the teaching of Jesus, celebrate that. Know what that is and celebrate that. We could say it another way. You've got to, in order to know what's good, you've got to know who's good. You've got to know what the standard is. You've got to know him. Number 2, Paul's telling us, so that's the first step. You've got to know Jesus. The second step, he says, now look for what's good in your world. Look for what's good outside in other people. You know, Paul did not believe that this world was all darkness. You may hear that sometimes. People talk like that. That was not his belief. He believed that this world was redeemable and this world was actually being redeemed. He believed that you could see the evidence of God at work in the world all around you, particularly in people and even in culture. He looked at even his culture, his Roman inundated culture, his Greek culture, and said, look, I see a lot of positive, I see a lot of good here, and yeah, certainly there are things that aren't good, not everything's good, but because I do see this is how Paul worded it. He said, whatever. He said, look, whatever is true. He didn't say everything is true, everything is noble, everything is right. He said, but whatever is, celebrate that. Look for that. Be a person who sifts for culture. He's trying to train people in order to look and to find what's good all around them. What's good, what's consistent with the life and the teaching and the person of Jesus, so that we will be people who celebrate what's good, so that we'll be known by what we're for, not just simply what we're against. You see, Paul believed that the Christian faith, it was meant to be a world-transforming faith. Not just a world-denying religion, but it was meant to be a faith in which, a movement that transformed the world. You see, we have evidence of this because God created the world. And God loves the world. It says it, his words. God loves the world. And we know that God hasn't given up on our world. And we know that because he sent Jesus and he established his church and he calls his people to be people who will go into the world to make a difference for God, who will bring good, who will bring light in this world. So Paul is calling his audience to be sifters. You ever have one of those, if you ever do that in school, you're the sifters, or maybe you're a prospector. Any prospectors here? I don't know. But I never prospected, but I did in school, had a sifter. You put all the stuff in there and you sift, and the sand's dropping down, right? That's all going through. And what you hope to get is a little treasure. You're hoping to find a little treasure. That's what's left over. He's calling the church not to be rejectors of the culture. Not to throw the baby out with the bathwater. What a weird phrase that is, but not to do that. But instead to sift through our culture, to look for what's good, to celebrate what's good, to find that treasure, to find what resembles and reflects Jesus. Let me make it more personal. Paul's calling us to look for what's good in people, to look for the gold in people, to celebrate that. To look for the evidence of God's redemptive work in them. To celebrate the best, not point out the worst. He's saying, train your eyes to look for that, to see that. Number 3, quickly, he says, focus on what's good. So once you know what's good, then you need, and you begin to look for what's good around. Then when you find it, you've got to focus on what's good. Look at this picture. So this picture was taken, it's using a technique called depth of field. And basically it's where the photographer takes one object and puts that object in focus and allows everything else around it to go out of focus. Another term for that, and I think even more appropriately, is selective focus. Right? And so this technique allows the photographer, even with a lot going on in the picture, this allows the photographer to kind of choose what this picture is really all about. So, for example, this picture, it's really about that sign, isn't it? This picture is really about this danger sign, and it's about the threat of danger, and it's about the threat of punishment, right? If you break the rules. That's what this picture is really all about, because that's what's in focus. But you know, the majority of the picture is the beauty of creation. The majority of what's in that picture is nature. It's this beautiful mountainside. Well, that's also true in life. It's also true in our thoughts. What you bring into focus will determine what the picture is all about for you. So, do you focus in on that person's flaws? Do you focus in on how that person has hurt you? Well, that will become the whole picture of what they are to you. Do you focus in on your own failures? Because that will be the whole picture of who you are to yourself. Do you focus in on what you don't have? You focus in on what on who has achieved further, achieved more, or gone further. Do you focus in on the bad that may happen? Well, then that will be what the whole picture is about for you. And you will allow what's good to go out of focus. Paul says, hey, how about this instead? How about instead you focus on a person's best and not their worst? How about instead you focus on the truth of what God says about you, not what that accusing voice is always calling you. How about instead you focus on the beauty of what God is doing in your life, not the ugly that's yet to go. Because then when you focus on what's to praise and not what's to curse, then that will become the picture for you. But there's another part to it. Paul talks about in this translation, they break out this word a little bit better than just simply think about these things. He says, fill your minds and meditate on these things. You know, what you put into your mind will become, that will become what forms your thoughts. Paul wants them to dwell on these things because these things, when we meditate on them, they become the lessons that we learn. These become the things that we learn from, that we believe are true. And so he's like, look, soak in these things. Meditate on these things. Imagine what would it be for you to be true and noble and reputable and authentic. Hey, you know, when you're thinking about how you're going to respond to that person, let this form your response. You know, when you're thinking about this is what I want to be known by, Paul's saying, meditate on this. Let this be what forms your goals and the decisions that you make. Because ultimately, it's only what's inside that will come out. And so we have to meditate and dwell and focus on these things. And then lastly, this. He says, do what's good. Students, you have been created to do great things. I hope that no one has lied to you and told you that's not true. I hope you haven't had experiences that have caused you to doubt that, because it's true. God has created you to do great things on this earth. And I don't just simply mean like down the road after college. I mean that he's created you to do great things even now. Great things at your school. Great things where you work. Great things in your home. Adults, it's not over for you. God has called you, created you, purposed you to do great things here and now where you work and where you live in your home and in your church. God has purposed you to do great things, but you know, we can have a lot of great ideas, a lot of great intentions, but they're worth nothing until they become action, right? Good is only real when we do it, when we live it out. And so Paul's saying, look, fill your mind with these things and then live this out. Put them into practice, all that you've learned. Do that. And God, you know, the God who's working all things together, you know, the God who's making all things new, you know, the God who's fixing you, the God who's bringing restoration, the God who's putting us back to who we were created to be and what we were created to do, he will continue that work. You'll see him doing that work, and you'll enter into that work as well. God has a purpose and a plan for you. We're going to talk next week. We're going to lean next week specifically on what it looks like to put what's good into practice. I just want to leave with this. God has he has a picture in mind. He has a plan for your life. And there's a journey that he calls each and every one of us into. And the culmination of that journey, where this is leading, is that you'll be a person who's life-giving. You'll be a person who makes a difference, who's bringing good into the world. We move forward from where we are to where he's leading us along that journey as we learn how to become people who celebrate what's good. Here at Capital, we understand our purpose as a church. We're here to help people, every person, move along their journey, their spiritual journey. We believe every person is on a spiritual journey, and whether you say, hey, I was born a Christian and I've been a Christian for 90 years, or you say that's the farthest thing from my mind, we believe every single person is on a spiritual journey, moving toward the God who created them. And like any journey, the only way to move forward on a journey is to take next steps. And so that's what we are here for, is to help people take next steps on that journey. The very first step and most important step is what we started with today. It's knowing God. The Bible tells us the way we know God is through a relationship with Jesus, through knowing him. And Jesus invites us into that. He says, just simply by inviting me into your life, by saying, you know what, I don't have it all figured out. I don't know what all of this means, but I'm going to trust that you are who you said that you are. I'm going to put my faith in you and invite you into my life, and I'm going to begin to learn what it looks like to follow you. When we begin that relationship with him, we we receive the forgiveness for our sins, and we receive his Spirit to begin to walk with us. That journey continues from there. And from that journey, we're made right with God right there. But at that point, we still got a lot of stuff hanging in. And it's from that point forward as we begin to walk along that journey that we allow the good that we find in Jesus. We allow the good and the true and the noble and the just and the pure. We allow that to become our thoughts, and it frees us from the bad news and the misinformation and the lies and the negativity and the worry that seeks to destroy us and derail us. We begin to find freedom from that, and we continue along that journey. And God begins to show us that he's calling us. He's calling us into the mission. That he wants to make you again who you were created to be. He wants to lead you in the path to do what you were created to do. Because see, he is working you into this world-changing plan. He wants to make a difference through your life. So we want to be a part of that journey for you. It's a series of next steps. Your next step may simply be to come back next Sunday. For you, the idea of coming back to a church another week, that's a next step. If that's your next step, the most important step you will ever take in your spiritual journey is the next step you will take. If that's your next step, I encourage you to take that. Maybe you're here today and say, I got all these good thoughts in my head, but I'm just not putting it into practice. I'm not doing the good that my intentions, that I have all these ideas and these intentions. Maybe your next step is to go out of here today and to do that good thing that God's put in your heart. Maybe today you'd say, actually my mind is just filled with junk. My mind is just filled with all kinds of negativity and bad thoughts, and I need God to renew my mind. And your next step is to get into the Word. Your next step is to get into small groups. Your next step is to dive into what we're doing here. Your next step is to ask God, hey, I want you to replace all this negativity with the truth, with what's pure, what's right. Maybe though this morning you would say, my next step is to get right with God. I don't have a relationship with God. Maybe you did at one point, but you say, I've gone my own way. Here's the thing. God, you're important. Every single person in this room is important to God. You've been created to live in a God-connected life. You've been created to live out purposes. God has plans and purposes for your life, plans and lives, purposes that make a difference. But as we begin to go our own way, we find that disconnection with God. We find ourselves being not who we think we should be, not doing the life, not living the life we know that we were created to live. The good news is that Jesus came and he gave his life in order to renew ours. That he gave his life so that you could once again be connected to God and be on that path that he has created, that life that he has created for you. And it's as simple, no matter how far you've wandered, it's as simple as one heartfelt prayer. So today, before we close, I want to give you that opportunity to say, yeah, I want to invite Jesus into my life. I don't have it all figured out, but I want to put my trust in him. I want to invite him into my life, that I can walk that path that he's created for me, that I might be right with God and live that life he's created me to live. That's a personal decision, though, and so I would ask everyone to bow your heads and close your eyes. Listen, I'm not going to make anybody stand up. I'm not going to embarrass anybody. I'm not going to make you come forward or anything like that. But I want to give a moment for you to respond to God. If you're here today and you would say, I'm not right with God. I have been going my own way. But today I want to get right with God. I want to invite Jesus to come into my life and to be more than an idea, but to be the leader of my life. To show me what it looks like to live the life that he's created me to live. This morning, if you'd like to invite Jesus into your life, would you just raise your hand? I'll see that and I'm going to pray for you. Yes. 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 Anyone else? You can put your hands down. So I'm going to pray, and I want to invite you to pray along with me. If you raised your hand, or maybe you didn't, but you say, I do want that. I'm ready to get right with God, and I'm ready to put my trust in Jesus for that. Would you just pray along with me? And if you have put your faith in Jesus, would you pray along as well so no one has to pray alone? These are my words, but as you pray this, God is responding to your response to him. Pray with me. Jesus, thank you. Thank you for giving your life to renew mine. I believe that you are who you said that you are. I believe you died for me, and I'm forgiven because of it. I believe you rose from the dead, and I'm made right with God. I don't understand it all, but I put my trust in you. I invite you into my life to rescue me, to heal me, to be the leader of my life. Help me to surrender what I'm holding on to. I give you my life.